Clerk, next.
All right, we are moving on to item C, approval of the March 18th, 2021 meeting minutes.
Move
I'll move
approval.
approval. Oh, support.
Who was that made, was that
Varga.
Alona?
Varga and Marecki.
Okay, very good. Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, of course? Not likely. But anyway, Madam Clerk, next.
We're moving on to item D, new business. Item D1, an update from James Heath, Carter Fisher, Jay Shandor, Bill Rath, and Victoria Innes Edwards regarding the status of the criminal justice complex.
Okay.
Good afternoon, Commissioner, or Mr. Chairman and members of the commission. Thank you very much for having us this morning, and thank you for spending some time with us even after your marathon full board session. So I appreciate the opportunity to be here before you.
Mr. Heath, if you would just identify yourself for the recording of the meeting.
James Heath, forgive me, Mr. Chairman, James Heath Corporation Counsel.
Thank you.
And I'll let the other members of our team introduce themselves as well.
Victoria Innes Edwards, Director of Human Relations Division.
Thank you, Victoria.
Carter Fisher, also with Corporation Counsel.
Okay.
And I don't know that we have anyone from CGL yet to have joined us.
Bill is on.
Oh, Bill
James.
Rath, are you on? Okay, great.
Yes,
There he
this
is.
is Bill Rath with CGL. Good morning,
And
everyone.
Thank you. Thanks for being here. And James, I just want to take a second just to acknowledge our new undersheriff who's online also, Mike Jafar. And just wanted to acknowledge him and say hello to him. And thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Commissioner. Very muchly appreciate it. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
So, James, if you'd like to continue.
Sure. And so we don't have all that much to add at this committee meeting. I know we went over some stuff extensively last month, and we've had some significant happenings that the whole commission is aware of since our last meeting. First, I'd like to thank you all for your earnest consideration and approval of the amendment to the parking concession agreement. Commissioner Anderson, you are very well aware of the significance of that and the flexibility that it will provide us as we go forward with respect to one of the most important issues that we face at the complex, and that is parking. Just to reiterate, as we did at the last full board where that was approved, we are in the process of putting out a request for proposals for a parking concession vendor, and we are finalizing that process, as well as looking to continue with the discussion on how we're going to accommodate parking for our visitors, for our employees, and for everyone who's going to be a part of the CJC. I know that's something that you have a lot of interest in, and as we move forward with selecting a vendor, some of those issues will become more clear. But it could not have happened without this commission's approval of that concession agreement. And so I just want to thank you. We are in the process of making sure we get the check cut and payment made to ROC for that. As you well know, every day counts with respect to that arrangement. And so we are well in the process of that. And as we make progress there, we will continue to let this commission subcommittee know. Stakeholders have reached out to me directly, the sheriff's office, the prosecutor's office, courts, and others who obviously would like to be involved in the discussions surrounding parking. I think it's also appropriate that I don't know that we had a chance to do that at the full board, but that we thank commission staff, most especially Commission Counsel Johnson. She worked closely with us and her team in making sure that the commissioners had all the information, for reviewing that information in an extremely efficient way. And as always, when we have important matters with respect to the CJC, she was very, very helpful. So I'd just like to publicly thank your staff for that. Any questions about that, Commissioner Anderson?
I don't. Any other members have any questions at this point? I don't see any hands raised or anything, so we'll proceed.
Sure. You'll see in the report that we sent out, one of the issues that we're going to be joining pretty quickly, and in fact, we have a meeting scheduled for tomorrow with respect to the substation, which is located at the CJC site. And we have been working with the city and other stakeholders to have that site decommissioned and demolished, and we're making progress there, and I'll be able to give you a more robust report on that at our next committee meeting. But with respect to environmental costs, we do anticipate that there will be some issues that will need to be addressed with respect to that site. Once we learn more about it, we'll be making a report to this body to let you know what we find there. But that's just kind of a 30,000 foot future view of what we're going to be discussing with you on that. Bill or Carter, do you have anything you want to add on the substation issue?
Just a little bit more detail on that. There's sort of two components to what we're going to do with the substation. The first is to remove the equipment that's currently inside. We think we've got a pretty good vendor who's experienced with that and has helped DTE with that at numerous other substations previously. And so we're doing everything possible to expedite that process as quickly as possible, and then we'll actually demolish the substation itself, at which point we'll be doing further the environmental work that James just described, all of that in furtherance of adding more parking spaces to the on-site parking lots at the front of the court building. So
instead of going through the kind of construction minutia over the last month, it's kind of written in the report. I would like to kind of let you know about a process which is probably, one of the most important things we've done in the past year, and that's been led by CGL and specifically Bill Rath in finalizing all of the drawings for the CJC. And that process has involved working very, very closely with our end users. I'm happy to see Chief Dunlap on the call, and he'll be able to chime in with any issues that the sheriff's office has. But he and his team have been involved from the very, very beginning and very, very active, as has the prosecutor, the courts, and folks who are going to be managing the medical side of ADF and others. But Bill really has led us on probably about a 4 to 6 week process of making sure that all of the needs of our end users are first known to the decision makers at the county, that we communicate any concerns that we have to the developer, and that we are in a position to negotiate with them on any changes. And this was kind of the last most comprehensive look at that. And it was really a wonderful process that Bill put into place. We're still engaged in it. I'd say probably about halfway through at this point, as we are still discussing with Rock. But Bill, can you just kind of give a 30,000 foot overview of that process and where you anticipate us going from here on that?
Certainly. I think there's a tremendous amount of detail in the design and delivery of facility solutions of this magnitude, right? And all of that detail needs to be in place to support turnover and occupancy and use of the facility. And I think, there are issues in criminal justice design pertaining to safety and security that are terribly important and that need to be addressed. And then there are other issues that are more fundamental, just ensuring that we have adequate power and data drops, for various pieces of equipment throughout the space. So we've worked with all of the end user teams over the past 6 weeks to walk through their plans and identify issues, capture issues, and document them. And we're in the process of approaching ROC with, those issues that we believe are significant, that require their consideration and their response. So our hope is that we've identified, the vast majority of these issues and swept them up, and we're able to work through a process with ROC to address and resolve these issues such that, when user groups begin to occupy, all the parts and pieces are there to support that occupancy effort, right? So there's a fairly aggressive transition period when we move from turnover to occupancy. So we want to do our best to ensure that as much of what is needed to be there is indeed there when the time comes to land and to go to work in the new facility. So I think it's been a great process. We're trying to contain and complete and move beyond it, because there's a lot of work ahead of us just in terms of being ready to work through the transition process. So I want to thank Chief Dunlap and his team in the Sheriff's Office. They were very aggressive and very detailed in their review, and similar levels of focus from most to all the other groups. So I feel confident that we've found the big rocks, and we're going to take care of it. So hopefully we do this well. So thank you, James.
James, I just wanted to take just a moment. I apologize to Chief Dunlap and not noticing he was on the screen a little earlier. And thank you for joining us, and for you, everything that you've done to help this process along. Bill, I wondered if I could, I'll come back to you, Chief Dunlap, if you want to say a few words at this point. But Bill, you mentioned something about the end users and working with them as a team. And something that came to mind about the preparation of moving into the new facility by the departments that'll occupy the new facilities there on site. So I'm assuming that'll be the same team that you're talking about that's already currently meeting, that are working through the processes in their own department, and how that's all going to be coordinated. I know it's a ways off yet, but I just wondered if that is something that's happening on a regular basis.
Commissioner, I believe you're asking about the transition planning process and
Yes.
taking a look at, the policies and procedures that various groups have and how they operate today, and working with those groups to realize that they will need to work differently going forward in the new facility, right? So I think one of a great example of that is this issue of document retention. The county has undertaken a pretty significant effort to move beyond paper to electronic storage of, record documents in the long term, right? So I think that's an example. There's been a good number of discussions held around, an issue such as key control, right? So, obviously the sheriff has got a great sensitivity to keys, who has the keys, who has the blanks, who controls all that, right? So there's those kind of processes. We're beginning to review those. I think that in general, we wish we had joined that process a little bit earlier, but as James just had outlined, we've really spent a substantial portion of the past, month and a half focused on these various issues. So our goal is to get beyond that and really do a deep dive into all those operational procedures and policies, and work with the teams to sort of work through that change management process, so that when they do arrive, they understand what they're walking into and how best to perform.
Okay. And I also apologize to Chief Fanis. He was my chief in Westland, as the chief of the Westland Police before he joined the department, and just welcome him for joining us. Thank you. And back to you, James. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Just wanted to, add one point, and I know that Commissioner Anderson, you're aware of it. We've had one or two discussions, but to bring the whole committee up to speed with respect to the Michigan Indigent Defense Commission, we've been
Yes.
talking for several months about a dispute we had with the state regarding their paying for confidential meeting spaces that we have programmed for ADF, the Adult Detention Facility, as well as for the JDF and the courthouse. Just very, very basic background on this. Our current facilities, Frank Murphy Hall of Justice, and our current jail facilities were not designed to have confidential meeting spaces so that attorneys and their clients, whether indigent or not, could meet and discuss the private aspects of their case. The Michigan Indigent Defense Act created the Michigan Indigent Defense Commission, which with I know everyone on this call is very well familiar. And the MIDC promulgates standards that govern the operation of indigent defense in the state of Michigan. Standard 2 relates to the need for confidential meeting spaces and opportunities. And so even before that standard was announced and adopted by the commission, we knew that it was part of the planning that they were engaged in. We knew that the act would require it. And so in very early stages, we began designing our facility, our new facility, to meet those standards. And we were fortunately correct in that the MIDC did in fact adopt standards with respect to confidential meeting spaces. We made a decision along with the MIDC. In fact, the MIDC requested that because we were in the process of planning a new facility, that we not retrofit the existing jails, the existing courthouse to meet those standards. That would have cost, we had estimates in the $6 to $7 million range in terms of what it would cost to do those retrofitting for those spaces. And so we agreed that we would wait until we got to that point with the new facility. And so it was in this fiscal year that we got to that point where not only were we going to begin construction with those meeting spaces, but we would actually be paying for them. And so we amended our annual compliance plan that we make under the MIDC Act that this commission approves every year. It's been in the neighborhood of 20 some odd $1 million for the last several years, you'll recall that. And so we added that amount into the plan for this past year, and they rejected it. And so per the act, we entered into mediation with a third party selected by State Court Administrator Tom Boyd, former district court judge. And the mediator reached a compromise, a settlement recommendation of almost $2.4 million. That was less than the 4.9 that we were requesting, but obviously more than the 0 that the state was attempting to provide us with. So after reaching that settlement recommendation, the MIDC convened and they agreed to adopt the recommendation from the mediator. We then took it upon ourselves to draft an appropriate settlement agreement, because obviously, as you all get settlement agreements all the time, you know, the real work is in the details of what is written in the agreement. We've prepared that. We have submitted it to the MIDC. They have not yet formally responded, although I think that they will be doing so shortly. And my hope certainly is that prior to our next committee meeting, we will see what sort of revisions they make to our proposed agreement. But I am confident, after having talked with the chair of that body, former Judge Jeffrey Collins, who, as you all would imagine, I believe has a sweet spot for Wayne County in his heart. I believe we're going to reach an agreement and they will approve it. And so when that time comes, we will, as we do with all settlements, we will be presenting that to the full commission for review and comment. But certainly this committee has special information about the CJC and what we're producing. And so I'm sure you'll have particular interest. When you do your tour in June, the CGL folks will show you those meeting spaces. And so you'll be able to see exactly what that money is going for. And, you know, I won't tell you it was a perfect resolution. Obviously, we didn't get everything that we wanted, but this was a resolution that we believe is fair, assuming that the state accepts the terms of our settlement. And so I just wanted to give you an update on that. We do believe that money is coming. We don't have it yet, but that is a good deal of progress with respect to that issue.
James, I don't know. I'm just trying to think of your other members of your team that are here, if any of them have any additional comments. I know James Carter, we got your report last night about, I don't know, between 8 and 9 o'clock, I think. I appreciate it if you could try to get it to us sooner, because a lot of us are not checking the email at the office beyond that time. But I realize you have a lot of other things to do besides the report. But if you could do it where we get it the day before, that would be great. But I don't know if you had anything you wanted to add.
Yeah, just a quick update as well on something that we've discussed before. The vendor for our cafeteria at the courthouse. We have come to a complete agreement with him. We have a contract that's being processed now, and so you should see that that contract coming to you shortly for commission approval. So
okay, that was one of my questions. You guys are ticking off my questions here without me even asking.
Commissioner, if I could, I'd like to allow Victoria Ennis Edwards
Victoria.
We could,
step
I have
forward.
one,
Oh, I'm
I have
sorry.
one question, if it's okay.
Commissioner Marecki.
Thank you. James, so I believe we had a discussion on the MIDC whole thing the other day, and I believe that Wayne County has to put in about $7 million a year to that program. So this money you're talking about is up and above the $7 million we're going to have to put in.
Right, this is
Correct?
completely separate, right. So what you're referring to, Commissioner Marecki, is our local share. And so the MIDC Act required, I believe the years were 2010, 2011, and 2012, where they took an average of what Wayne County had been spending in those 3 years, and that was in the neighborhood of $7 million on indigent defense. That went to pay for the private attorneys who at that time were doing 75% of the felony cases in Wayne County, as well as the state defender's office, who was the prior vendor for indigent defense services. And so the MIDC Act said that all local funding units, of which Wayne County is one, continue to pay their local share. So keep paying what they had been paying, plus inflation every year. And in addition to that, all of these new requirements would be paid for through grants from the state. And so we've been doing everything that we had been doing for decades in Wayne County. Then we got additional money for the state to take on the new requirements. This $2.38 million that I'm talking about in terms of a settlement is completely separate. And on top of that, that's a one-time payment that will be made.
Okay, so,
James,
oh,
I'm sorry.
that's all right.
I think that James, this is just physical space, correct, for this and accommodations for the MIDC.
Correct. These are to pay for room, everything that goes into
Separate.
rooms and the setup that's required there. That's correct.
So there's going to be other counties that are stuck stuck with a bill from MIDC for rooms that it may be quite expensive. I mean, other counties throughout the state then, right, that have to deal with this new room requirement.
So yeah, and so other counties have handled it differently. So for instance, some counties who were not contemplating new spaces, a new courthouse, a new jail, or those sorts of things, received funds to upgrade their existing facilities. And so that was, and ironically, Commissioner, that was one of the arguments that they raised, which we thought was just preposterous. When, they said, well, we won't pay money for new construction, our response was, well, it doesn't make any sense if theoretically you would have paid to retrofit a 100-year-old jail with confidential meeting spaces. We're building a brand new state-of-the-art facility. It would be cheaper to pay for building new spaces with new materials. You could imagine what it would have cost to build spaces in Division 2 in a 100-year jail. I don't even think Chief Dunlap or the undersheriff or Mr. Fanis would have signed off on such an enterprise. It was ridiculous. And when they indicated that there was a distinction between new construction and existing buildings, which, mind you, was found nowhere in the act or the law, that was really the crux of our dispute.
Okay, thank you. I'm all set. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Commissioner Marecki. Any other commissioners have any comments or questions at this time? Okay, we'll move on. James, anything else?
No, I'd just like to give Victoria the opportunity to.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry.
Thank you so much. Again, Victoria Ennis Edwards, Director of Wayne County Human Relations Business Inclusion Division. A quick update, one of the biggest pushes we have been doing lately has been for the FF&E bids that will be coming out late summer and into the fall. On April 21st, we had our first workshop. And part of what we're doing with the workshop is we are proactively looking for businesses, Wayne County businesses, women-owned business, minority-owned businesses, for the areas of the trades and the commodities that will be in the FF&E. And let me back up. I know you keep hearing all the initials, but I'll just say it long. FF&E is furniture, fixtures, and equipment. I teasingly say there's an extra E because everything else. So think about it for all the aftermarket stuff that we're going to have to buy: clocks, trash cans. We're even looking at recruiting for snow removal, some of the hardscape and softscapes. While a lot of that has to be done before they turn the building over, there's also a wide breadth of opportunity after we switch from our old facility to the new facility to make sure that we're ensuring Wayne County businesses are on these contracts. So that being said, part of what we did at the workshop on the 21st is we were able to work with the businesses and give them an overview of what was going to be coming up. And a lot of this is to ensure that we're meeting the goal of 51% Wayne County residents on the project, 30% of the spend with Wayne County businesses. And then Barton Malow added an additional goal as the builder for 11% of the dollars being spent with Wayne County women and minority-owned businesses. And so far we are tracking for that, but there's such a wide opportunity within the FF&E. We thought it prudent to help make sure that they were ready instead of these small businesses. And we know a lot of them also took a hard hit over this past year. So you have some businesses that were small. Some of them are now micro. Maybe they started with 7 folks before 2020. Now it's down to 2.5. So we're trying to do the most that we can to ensure that we make sure nothing is burdensome and help get them back into the rhythm and the cadence of work. Part of that is making sure that they have everything that they need tool-wise to be able to bid on the FF&E projects. We sent the flyer through to you for all the commissioners. And just to give you an idea of the efforts, we reached over 43,000 businesses We did that through Facebook. We did that through LinkedIn. We did that through direct, literally blasting it over and over again. We know you shared it. We shared it with different, all of the different chambers. So we had over 17,000 reached with our LinkedIn campaign. We have over 24,000 reached in with our Facebook campaign, as well as all the other websites. So understanding that we are trying to make sure that any and everybody knows about these opportunities. So this was our first workshop. We had approximately 152 that were registered. We had 90 that came. And out of the 90 that showed up, over 60% of them were Wayne County businesses. So we are really digging deep. And what we are really proud of, the majority of these businesses are viable businesses. And then what we brought to the table for them is what we call the barrier services. We had someone talk about insurance. We had someone there talking about a bonding. We partnered with Great Lakes Women's Association, and they have seed funding. A lot of times what happens, for example, with the small businesses, they want to bid on a project, and let's say their capacity has been $500,000. But they see something they think they can do more. They need either extra bonding dollars or they're going to need ramp up capital. So what we're trying to do is bring the resources to the table so they can then apply for additional capital. They can get extra bonding ahead of time before any of these bids even hit the street so that they are ready. So this was our first workshop. We will be doing another workshop again in July with anticipation of the first wave of the bids hitting the street around August. I meet every Thursday. We had to move it from Fridays. Every Thursday with a group. We have CGL as part of the group. Source Blue, which is the partner group with our procurement team, with Aaron's team, as well as the owner advocate and myself. And we go through and we comb through. So let me bring it back. When we talked about Chief Dunlop, Chief Faunus, Under Sheriff Jayfer, when they say these are the things that we need, we look at the list for the FF&E, and we want to make sure that they're not only on the list, but then we want to see, can our local businesses supply it? There's no need for us to go all the way to Las Vegas when we have 3 folks here. So what we're trying to do is make sure there's a concerted effort that these Wayne County dollars are cycled through our communities and through our businesses. And that's what we've been able to do. We will have an additional, as I said, workshop in July. So our goal is to make sure every commodity and every single item that is going to be bid out, we want everywhere in between 2 to 3 companies that are registered, certified, and ready to be able to bid before the bids even hit the street. So if we get those people viable and get them geared up, we're really looking at a higher success rate. So we spend a lot of energy talking with people, walking them through the process, finding out where their gaps are, maybe their business acumen needs to be tightened up. Well, then we work with some of the other agencies. So we really had a successful workshop. Ironically, it was that one day where we got that freaky last minute slush freeze to do the workshop. So we think that had a little something to do with a lower attendance, but we are very, very happy with it. Again, you will soon see a link that I'm going to send out to all the commissioners. We want you to be able to share this with the businesses in your community and put it in your newsletters. And anybody that says, hey, I'm interested, send them to the link. We are literally calling them, doing a small interview, finding out what their capacity is, what they can provide, and if we need to help them with additional technical assistance, now is the time that we're doing so. So I will try to give you a pretty report, but as you can see, I'm kind of moving in a million directions right now, and I'd rather get the good work done and tell it to you. And so we will have that link for you very soon. I meet with the team later on today at 1:30. I'm hoping they'll have it completed. Again, we will be having another workshop in July. And again, I will be sharing that information. And I implore you, please, newsletters, push it to any and every business that you know of. And also anybody who's registered and we are garnering for the FF&E. When the FF&E is done, they don't just go away for us. We're also pulling them into our system for any other bids that Wayne County. So that's why Aaron and I work in tandem as well. We are not only making them viable for this current process and this current bid process, but for any and everything that would be applicable through Wayne County going forward. So we're really, really trying to touch our businesses. I think you're on mute, Commissioner.
Sorry about that. Sorry. Thank you, Victoria. Appreciate it. James, anything else? I have one question for you if you don't.
No, sir, we're ready for questions.
Oh, okay. I just wondered, have we considered at all whether or not it would be beneficial to try to buy the incinerator property, or is that too big of an thing to bite off? Because I'm sure we could get federal brownfield funds for cleanup, and I don't know if that's been any considerations been given for that, for additional parking down the road or for additional courts if we wanted to bring something else on site. I don't know if that's in proximity to it, to our current site. That's going to have to come down, I'm sure, and I don't know what federal funds might be available and how much it would be either.
So let me answer it this way. Not with respect to the CJC project, we have not had those discussions, Commissioner. As you know, we envisioned, the incinerator was taken offline after we kind of completed the design and planning for the current project. As you do know, prior to COVID, we did have a contract with HOK to do some preliminary design work with respect to other potential court facilities. The funds on that contract were not expended completely. They kind of stopped work right before COVID got started. So there's still the possibility of looking at other projects which might require parking and the like. And so we would be looking at the space around that entire area for anything outside of criminal justice complex matters. And so I think I leave it at that for right now.
Okay. So it is, things are being checked out all around as far as potential use down the road. And
yeah, we keep an extremely close eye on that whole area.
Okay, all right. Because I know I think there's off-site parking still involved, right? For the CJC.
Yes, sir.
And,
Our off-site parking is critical to the needs of this project.
Right. Okay. Anyone else? Any other? Did you have any additional comments? I think you said no.
No, sir. I did not.
Okay. And anyone from the Sheriff's Department wish to weigh in or have a question or comment?
So, Commissioner, Chief Dunlap here. Just want to say thank you for the acknowledgement, but more so thanks to Sheriff Washington and Under Sheriff Jafer for allowing me the opportunity to continue to lead the efforts on our end with the support and assistance of Chief Faunus. In addition to that, they've allowed me an opportunity to assemble, I think, what is one of the best jail transition teams anywhere in America, under the leadership of one of our really good lieutenants, Rachel Moore, who's doing a very good job of working alongside CGL and HOK and everyone else, identifying our concerns and needs. And I also want to say thank you to James Heath and to the Deputy CEO Kaufman. Whenever we have a concern, they are quick to acknowledge and address the concerns with the understanding that, we realize that we're not going to all always agree, but, they will acknowledge the concern. And even when there's a different point of view on the way things we believe should be or not, they weigh it against, obviously, life safety and the budget. And so with that, I just want to say to the commissioners that, the project from our end is moving, and I always say, cautiously, optimistically well. We do realize that, as with any project, there's not going to be 100% agreement on how it should go, but overall, we're all doing this in the best interest of, Wayne County and all those involved. So thank you for the acknowledgement, and I'll kick it back to the undersheriff or Chief Finest if they want to add something to that.
Can I say something, Commissioner? Just
Sure.
to that point, and I hope that there's not leaders from any other transition group on the call, but I'd like to echo Chief Dunlap's comments with respect to Lieutenant Moore from the Sheriff's Department. She's really been phenomenal in uncovering, issues that, frankly, folks from the county side at times would not have seen had it not been for her. And so I want to acknowledge her with all due respect to any of her other transition colleagues.
Thank you. Thank you.
Under Sheriff Barr, did you want to say something? I looked like you were getting ready to.
Thank you, Commissioner. I just want to thank Chief Dunlap and Chief Finest, and obviously I'm getting my feet wet here, but we work as a team under beloved Sheriff Benny Napoleon, and Sheriff Washington has the same philosophy. There's no I in team, and we have an awesome team. Kudos to Chief Dunlap on recognizing his lieutenant and the transition team, because the reality of it is they are doing all the grunt work and they're doing a phenomenal job. And of course, the partnership with the commission and the CEO's office has been amazing. So that makes it a lot easier. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I did want to ask the other members of the committee once again if they have any comments or questions before we wind things down.
Well, I don't have any questions, and I just want to thank Mr. Heath and as well as the Sheriff Department for making themselves available before we get to these meetings. So questions I've had offline there, Mr. Heath and his team have been willing and readily available to answer those questions, and which have better prepared me, to come up to speed with what the committee's work has been about. So I want to say that publicly, and I like to say congratulations to the new undersheriff, but he's not new to our community.
Right.
Right.
If I may, Commissioner, congratulations to you, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
So, Victoria, I just wanted to mention to you that Mark Abbo had to leave the meeting early. He had something, I think he had a doctor's appointment or something. And he did say before, or he sent me a message before he left, that he said he didn't have any questions, just a congratulatory comment that we're now working on furniture and fixtures, which is a great indicator that we're moving towards completion. And I told him I would share his words.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. We're working hard.
Then, yeah, you've done a lot of hard work on this, and we appreciate it. If there's not any other questions or comments
I just want to say hello to everybody. Hi, everybody.
Hello,
Commissioner Varga. Oh, there she is. Okay. Yeah, I believe she's trying her best to stay on top of things, even though she's doing some driving around and transporting someone to the hospital, I believe. And
yeah, I have to thank God her operation was fine. I dropped her off this morning, and I'm going to pick her up right now in Pontiac. So I'm glad that the meeting will be over while I'm still in Wayne County.
there you go. Well, thank you all for joining us today. If there's not any additional comments or questions, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Chair, we still have to do public comment.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry.
Oh.
Thank you for catching me. Do we have any emails or any comments that have been submitted?
I did not receive any, but I will open the floor.
Okay.
So this is Chief Dunlap again. I'd just like to, I'd be remiss if I didn't make it publicly known how grateful I am on this end that, you know, on the county side, Victoria has been working alongside the sheriff's office for quite some time. We know how long ago we started this project way back when, and we're very grateful that she's on that end, making sure that the folks on that side as it relates to the vendors get it right. And so I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge Victoria for, you know, what she's doing to help this project be successful. Thank you.
Thanks, Chief. Go ahead, Sam.
Yeah, Chair
Mr.
Anderson, I just
Beidou?
want to thank you. I just want to recognize and thank my dear friend, the Undersheriff Mike Jafer, and congratulations again. And Chief Dunlap, you're doing a great job. Look forward to working with you. Look forward to seeing you at the Ace Hardware store. That's where I see him 2-3 times doing his landscaping shopping.
Yes, that, and then let me say this to all of you that, you know, I'll be happy to go along with you all on your tour in June if you all are interested, and we can give you a perspective from the sheriff's side.
That'd be great.
We'll be there. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Baidoon. Thank
Thank
you.
you, cousin.
I'll go back to the clerk now. Our clerk, I think I skipped over such other matters. I don't think there was any. Did anyone have any such other matters? And I haven't seen anything submitted. I don't know, Madam Clerk, if you have.
No, I have not.
And then
Since we
were
already
going to
did,
pub- Go
yep,
ahead.
since we already did public comment, we will move on to item G, which is adjournment.
Okay, I need to call, I think, a couple of times for public comments. If there's anyone else online that's not a member of the committee or hasn't been recognized prior to this, if they have any comments, anyone from the public? Last call, anyone from the public? And Madam Clerk, have you opened up so anyone would be able to
Yes.
raise a question? Okay, all right. Next item on the agenda.
All right, now we are going to item G, which is
So
adjournment.
adjourn.
Support.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor? Call the
Aye.
meeting.
Aye.
Aye. Call the meeting adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you all.